Firearms. During the transatlantic slave trade, European traders brought early guns to West Africa. These were single-shot, slow-to-reload weapons by today's standards, but they were incredibly valuable and militarily superior to traditional African weapons like spears, bows, or swords. And to the African leaders, firearms weren't just for defense, they were a key part of African politics and warfare at the time. Firearms were incredibly useful for things like capturing more slaves, for asserting power and dominance, and served as a significant status symbol. Even if they weren't used often, owning guns meant prestige. Estimates put the value of one pistol to be equal to one slave. However, one flintlock musket would often go for between 1 to 3 slaves. Textiles. In the context of the slave trade, textiles referred to manufactured fabrics and clothing materials brought from Europe and Asia, especially India, to West Africa. The main types included printed cotton cloth, especially from India, wool, linen, silk, and ready-made clothing or fabric bundles for making traditional African garments. These textiles served as status symbols and also had significant economic value because of their versatility. Textiles acted like currency and were easily resold or retraded within local African markets since merchants preferred goods that were lightweight, valuable, and easy to transport. And textiles fit this perfectly. Alcohol. Alcohol was a highly sought-after commodity used by European merchants to buy enslaved Africans. The main types included rum, brandy, gin, and palm wine, which were sometimes traded locally but not typically part of European shipments. These drinks were often shipped in large barrels or jugs and used both in trade and for personal consumption by African elites. Alcohol was used for ceremonial use, during leisure, social status symbol, and quite frankly, a lot of them were addicted. The value of alcohol varied by type and quantity, but here are general estimates equivalent for one slave. 1 large cask of Caribbean rum, 10 gallons of French brandy, 12 bottles of Dutch gin. In many cases, alcohol was combined with other goods like textiles, guns, or beads in a mixed barter package. Alcohol, especially rum, was central to the infamous triangular trade. Here's how it went. Caribbean colonies made rum from slave-produced sugar. The rum was then shipped to West Africa, where it was used to buy more slaves. The slaves were then sent to the Americas, producing more sugar and rum. This cycle fueled both slavery and alcohol consumption on both sides of the Atlantic. Manillas and metal goods. Manillas were bracelet-shaped metal objects, usually made of copper or brass, used as a form of money in many parts of West Africa before and during the transatlantic slave trade, shaped like a horseshoe or open bangle. The sizes and designs varied by region and period. Europeans, especially the Portuguese and British, mass-produced them in Europe specifically for African markets. It was sometimes referred to as slave trade money. Other metal goods included iron bars, copper rods or plates, brass kettles, pans, axes, knives, and other tools. These metals were either raw materials for African blacksmiths and artisans or finished goods used in everyday life or agriculture. These manillas and metal goods were valuable for trade, cultural significance, utility, and their remelting and crafting properties. The exchange value depended on the type, size, and quality, but typically 20 to 30 pieces of manila or 1 large iron bar were equivalent to 1 slave. Often, manillas and iron bars were combined with other goods like textiles, beads, or alcohol in trade deals. Salt. Salt was an essential trade item during the transatlantic slave trade, especially in West and Central Africa. The salt used in trade was usually evaporated sea salt and rock salt blocks packed in sacks for easy storage and transportation. These salts were not always pure and were incredibly coarse-grained. Salt was valuable for food preservation, adding flavor to food, and was even used as currency in some regions. Salt was less valuable per unit than guns, alcohol, or textiles, but it was still widely used in trade, often in combination with other goods. Estimates put one sack approximately 50 kilograms of sea salt equal to half a slave. Luxury items. European slave traders often brought a range of non-essential, high-status goods referred to as luxury or prestige items that were used to impress and influence African rulers, chiefs, and merchants. Common luxury trade goods included mirrors, brass or copper rings, necklaces, pendants, earrings, hats, umbrellas, perfumes, and toiletries, tableware like cups, plates, spoons, forks, and decorative items like beaded belts, snuff boxes, clocks, and watches. Many of these were cheap to produce in Europe but appeared rare and luxurious in African markets. These items were valuable to African elites mainly as symbols of power, and honestly, some of these items truly impressed them. Items like mirrors and watches were new technologies in many African regions and were viewed as magical or mysterious. On their own, luxury items were not always enough to buy a slave, but they played an important role in bundle trades or as gifts to seal deals. For this reason, luxury items weren't always priced in slave units. They often acted as relationship building tools that led to larger transactions.